Hello, good evening. You are tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Soraya Mia. We take a closer look at fake vaccine certs and how to plug loopholes. And Djokovic faces deportation as Australia cancels his visa again. That's coming up. Asset declaration should be the focus in investigations surrounding MACC chiefs' share ownership in public listed companies. Dewan Negara President Tan Sri Rais Yatim said while much attention has centered on whether there was a conflict of interest and if the shares commensurated with Tan Sri Azam Baki's income, the main question is whether Azam had made declarations about his ownership of the shares. The chairman of the Parliamentary Special Committee on Corruption, one of 5 MACC oversight panels, also pointed towards a government circular issued in 2002 that stipulates civil servants are not allowed to purchase shares exceeding 100,000 ringgit. The committee, he added, has resolved that an investigation must be conducted into the matter.
6 tahun dahulu telah dilakukan hal ini. Pada masa itu, adakah peristiharan dibuat? Sama ada sebagai beneficiary ataupun sebagai milik sendiri. Itu pun tidak dapat jelas dalam suasana yang ada pada hari ini. Lantaran itu kami dalam jawatan kuasa mengesyorkan supaya siasatan dilakukan terhadap beliau.
Azam came under the spotlight over his ownership of over 1.9 million shares in Getz Global Berhad in 2015, worth around 772,000 ringgit at the time. Azam Baki should take a leave of absence while under investigation. Tan Sri Rais Yatim said the convention is for government servants being probed to either go on leave or be suspended from their duties, but added that it is up to the Public Service Commission to decide.
Banyak pandangan menjurus kepada fakta bahawa ia bukan satu kriminal ataupun satu perbuatan jenayah, tetapi mungkin hanya salah laku ataupun tidak dapat menyempurnakan tugas. Justru terbaik pandangan kami juga ialah beliau mengambil cuti, rehat sebentar dan membiarkan jawatan kuasa itu menjalankan tugas. Namun saya suka menambah sedikit, ada juga pihak-pihak yang lebih tinggi sebelum ini yang disiasat tapi tak ada cuti. Ini perlu saya sebut sebab dua pandangan mesti ada di depan kita. Terserahlah kepada Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Awam untuk memutuskan nak diberi cuti atau tidak ataupun tanpanya.
The Malaysian Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah expressed concerns over Cambodian Prime Minister's recent visit to Myanmar, highlighting regional tensions and how to deal with the crisis in the country. In a Twitter post, Saifuddin said the Cambodian Prime Minister is free to visit the junta-led nation, but should have consulted other Southeast Asian leaders first on how to go about during his visit in Myanmar, especially because Cambodia is now the chair of ASEAN. Hun Sen met Myanmar's military ruler Min Aung Hlaing last week. It is the first visit by a head of government since the army seized power from an elected government last year. ASEAN foreign ministers were supposed to hold talks in Cambodia next week, but the meeting has now been postponed. The sale of fake COVID-19 vaccination certificates and cases involving unvaccinated Umrah pilgrims have exposed loopholes in the SOP monitoring and enforcement. Public health specialist Dr. Muhammad Farhan Rusli shares his thoughts on the matter.
In effect, it actually boils down to a systematic, treason by the people, and then they are trying to lie their way into the system. So the doctor himself is involved, the public itself is involved. I'm not sure about the travel agents. I don't know whether they're involved or not. But you can only check so much, and you can only expect the immigration officers to check so much. Because how do you tell if I bring a vaccination card that's been stamped by a medical professional, whether it's real or not real? You obviously need to take that card into what it is. So in the end, definitely you cannot have 100% perfect system, but rather you can have a system that is actually well monitored. And this is exactly why you need to have proper audits in place. And I understand that this boils down also to the multiple stories where vaccines were being sold off and all that. If you remember when we were talking about it a couple of months ago, and this actually is one of the things that was actually done, where the doctors would actually sell off some of these vaccines, and perhaps to those people who did not want to get the vaccine but just wanted the vaccine certificates. So with all of this, right, you have to take all these external factors into account, and you have to plan your public health measures well, because you know that the Omicron variant is actually already in our community, even though we've tried to be gatekeepers and ensuring that only vaccinated people get access to, for example, like IKEA or big convenience stores. Yet, some of these people would have gotten through this loophole, and these people would actually be the ones carrying this virus without anyone knowing. So, in the end, Sarah, there is no definitive way of actually checking or actually making sure that everyone is really vaccinated or not. But rather, this is where you talk about public health empowerment, where people must know that it is their own personal responsibility to get themselves vaccinated.
Time for a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Most people, both in Malaysia and globally, expect this year to be better than 2021. A survey by Ipsos revealed that 82% Malaysians feel more optimistic about 2022, while on the global country average, 77% feel the same. Here to explain the findings is Managing Director of Ipsos Malaysia, Arun Menon.
In this year, it's more driven by the fact that, despite the fact, challenges of being there is Omicron out there, and, the infections are picking up across multiple countries in UK and the US and the others. They are saying that at least we have a solution for it. And we have seen different surges in the back. There is Delta, there is Alpha, Beta, the different, the Greek alphabet that we have gone through. But they say that, we can get through it. Is one feeling that, we have seen different variation. It's not going to be as bad as it has. So 2021, to be honest, for Malaysia and many countries in Asia was much bad than 2020, right? So in the absolute number of infections that Malaysia has seen in 2021 is much bad than 2020. So now, initially we used to be worried about 100 infections per day. Now even 3,000, we say it's normal, right? So that's where that normal has changed. So now people can cope up with 2,000. They say, okay, even if there is another surge, we can deal with that.
Meanwhile, 75% Malaysians think the global economy will strengthen this year compared to the year before.
We do measure what we call the consumer confidence index for Malaysians, right? Are you willing to go ahead? And so some of the questions that we ask is that, obviously, your financial situations, are you willing to save more? Would you be making a large purchase like a car or an apartment, or even the smaller purchases like household items, that's right? All of these indicators is actually showing a very positive momentum from slightly later September, once we started opening the economy after the MCOs, and through this month, especially in November and December months, which we measure. So all of them are reaching to the levels which is pre-pandemic level. And the other part also, COVID as one of the concerns that we used to measure has dropped significantly as one of the concerns for Malaysians over the last few months. So they are more likely at this point of time to buy, and put an investment for a house or put an investment to buy a new car. So that's another sign of, optimism.
On the foreign front, tennis star Novak Djokovic faces deportation again after the Australian government revoked his visa for a second time. Immigration Minister Alex Hawke said it was in the public interest to cancel Djokovic's visa on health grounds just 3 days before the Australian Open begins. The star's lawyers are expected to appeal the cancellation, but time is running out for the unvaccinated player as the Australian Open starts on Monday. Hawke said he carefully considered information from Djokovic, the Home Affairs Department, and the Australian Border Force before arriving at the decision to cancel his visa. Under the section of the Immigration Act, in which the minister used, the Serbian is likely to face a 3-year ban on obtaining a new Australian visa. Meanwhile, protesters in Indonesia are calling for a boycott of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics over China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. Dozens of young demonstrators rallied outside the Chinese embassy in Jakarta ahead of the Games next month.
Dozens of students wearing masks with colors of the Eastern Turkestan movement staged a rally demanding the cancellation of the Winter Games set to begin on February 4th. While concern over human rights has become almost a constant theme in international sport in recent years, few hosts of major events have provoked quite as much controversy as Beijing. The US had announced a diplomatic boycott of the Games over what it considered to be widespread rights abuses by China, including against the Uyghur minority in Xinjiang province. The boycott was quickly followed by Australia, Britain and Canada. This means no officials from these countries will be present, but athletes will still participate in the Games.
Passengers from 153 nations, including Malaysia, have been banned from transiting through Hong Kong airport. The move deepens the city's global isolation. Like mainland China, Hong Kong has maintained some of the world's harshest pandemic measures, including 3-week-long quarantines. Hong Kong's airport said anyone who has spent time in the last 3 weeks in any of those 153 countries would be banned from transiting between Sunday and February 15th. Already, passengers from countries like Australia, Canada, France, India, Britain, and the United States have been banned entirely from arriving in Hong Kong. The city is battling a small outbreak of the Omicron variant that began with a flight crew from Cathay Pacific who breached home quarantine rules. There's still little clarity over new recruitment terms for foreign domestic workers from Indonesia ahead of an imminent bilateral agreement. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our guests about recruitment and protection of these workers. That's all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com or download the Astro AWANI app. I'm Saraya Mia. Thank you for watching and good night.